Imagine walking into a car dealership with two price tags. The first says $48,000. The second says only $599 per month. Most people don't hesitate. Their eyes immediately drift toward the smaller number. It feels manageable, affordable, even. The car hasn't changed. The price hasn't changed. Only the way it's presented has changed. And yet, that tiny shift in perspective is powerful enough to change millions of financial decisions every single day. The most dangerous thing companies sell isn't luxury. It isn't convenience. It isn't even products. It's the illusion that expensive things are actually affordable. And they create that illusion with one simple question. Not, can you afford this? But, can you afford this every month? That single change has quietly transformed the way modern society spends money. And once you notice it, you'll see it everywhere. For most of history, buying something was simple. You looked at the price. You decided whether you had enough money. If you didn't, you waited. The purchase forced you to confront reality. A horse cost what it cost. A house cost what it cost. A piece of land cost what it cost. There was very little room for illusion. Today, the price has almost disappeared. Instead of selling products, companies sell payments. Cars become monthly payments. Phones become monthly payments. Furniture becomes monthly payments. Vacations become monthly payments. Even groceries can now be split into installments. Somewhere along the way, we stopped asking, how much does this cost? And started asking, how much is it per month? That sounds like a harmless change, but psychologically, it's enormous. Because the human brain isn't naturally good at understanding large numbers. It prefers smaller, immediate pieces of information. $500 per month feels much smaller than $60,000, even when they're describing the exact same purchase. Psychologists call this framing. The facts remain identical. Only the presentation changes. But presentation changes behavior. Imagine a restaurant offering a dessert for $30. Many people would hesitate. Now imagine the menu saying, only $1 per day. Nothing has changed mathematically, yet suddenly it feels reasonable. The brain doesn't evaluate value, it evaluates perception, and perception is surprisingly easy to manipulate. This is why monthly payments have become one of the most effective sales tools ever created. They don't reduce prices, they reduce pain. Behavioral economists have discovered something fascinating. People experience a small emotional discomfort whenever they spend money. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as the pain of paying. It's why handing over a stack of cash feels more painful than tapping a credit card. The financial outcome is identical. The emotional experience isn't. Businesses have spent decades learning how to reduce that pain. Credit cards reduced it. Digital wallets reduced it further. Automatic subscriptions almost eliminated it. Monthly financing took it one step further. Instead of feeling one large financial loss, people experience many tiny ones. The pain becomes diluted, almost invisible. And when pain becomes invisible, spending often increases. Think about streaming services. Very few people wake up one morning and decide to spend $200 every month on subscriptions. Instead, it happens gradually. One service, then another, $10 here, $15 there, $8 somewhere else. Individually, each payment feels insignificant. This is called the small payment effect. Humans consistently underestimate the combined impact of many small expenses. Our brains pay attention to large events. They ignore repeated tiny ones. Companies know this. That's why almost every industry has moved toward subscriptions. Music, movies, software, fitness, food delivery, cloud storage, gaming. Even cars are beginning to adopt subscription models. Because subscriptions don't just generate recurring revenue, they quietly disappear into the background of people's lives. After a few months, many customers stop noticing them altogether. The payment becomes invisible. But invisible doesn't mean free. Another psychological trap appears the moment financing enters the picture. Ownership feels immediate. The consequences feel distant. Imagine buying a $70,000 SUV. Very few people carry $70,000 in cash. But if the dealership says, only $800 a month, suddenly the impossible feels possible. The future quietly borrows money for the present, and the present happily accepts. This happens because the human brain consistently values immediate rewards more than future costs. Psychologists call this present bias. Today's pleasure feels real. Next year's payments feel abstract. Your future self becomes someone else's problem, until eventually, that future self becomes you. One of the most fascinating things about debt is that it reverses the normal order of life. Usually, effort comes first, reward comes later. You study before passing the exam. You train before winning the race. You work before receiving the paycheck. Debt flips the equation. The reward comes first. The effort comes afterward. You drive the car today. You pay for it over the next 6 years. You enjoy the vacation today. You spend the next year paying it off. The psychological danger is obvious. Humans naturally prefer rewards now and sacrifices later. Businesses understand this better than anyone. Modern marketing isn't really about convincing people to spend more money. It's about making future payments feel emotionally insignificant. Notice how advertisements rarely emphasize total cost anymore. Instead, they ask, only $29 a month, just $99 a week, less than your daily coffee. Every comparison is designed to make the purchase feel smaller than it really is. This isn't lying. It's something much more subtle. It's directing your attention, because attention shapes decisions. If you focus on the monthly payment, you stop focusing on the total price. If you focus on affordability, you stop asking whether something is actually worth buying. These are completely different questions, and confusing them has become surprisingly expensive. Lifestyle inflation quietly enters the picture as well. Imagine receiving a promotion at work. Your income increases by $500 each month. Immediately, banks are willing to lend you more. Dealerships show nicer cars. Real estate agents show bigger homes. Your new income doesn't create financial freedom. It increases your borrowing capacity. Without realizing it, every raise becomes an excuse to increase monthly obligations. The paycheck grows, so do the payments. Years pass, income doubles, expenses quietly follow. Financial stress barely changes. People often wonder why they never feel richer despite earning far more than they used to. This is one reason. Every increase in income has already been promised to someone else. The bank, the lender, the subscription, the financing company. The future paycheck has been spent before it arrives. Perhaps the biggest hidden cost of monthly payments isn't financial, it's psychological. Every recurring obligation quietly reduces freedom. Imagine two people earning exactly the same salary. One has almost no recurring payments. The other has loans, subscriptions, financing plans, and installment purchases consuming most of every paycheck. They appear equally successful, but their lives are fundamentally different. The first person has options. The second has obligations. Options create freedom. Obligations create pressure. Freedom is difficult to measure on a balance sheet, but people feel it every single day. It determines whether someone can leave a stressful job, whether they can start a business, whether they can survive unexpected emergencies, whether they sleep peacefully at night. Ironically, many purchases marketed as symbols of success slowly reduce the very freedom people hoped they would create.